Will Biden's promise to, quote, transition from the oil industry cost him the election? Hello, this is Robert Romano, Vice President of Public Policy with Americans for Limited Government, dailytorch.com. Hit that subscribe button. Today we're going to be talking about former Vice President Joe Biden and his promise in the final presidential debate to transition away from the oil industry and what that means for voters, particularly in top producing oil states, but also as a broader issue to do with fracking and the top natural gas states in the country that produce it. And I think that Joe Biden is throwing votes away and that his Green New Deal is going to destroy the natural gas industry, it's going to destroy the oil industry, and that right now this could cost him the election and bring down his vote totals from people who might have supported him who are now saying, wait a second, he's going to do away with my job, he's going to do away with my industry, what I depend on. And more broadly, the American people are going to say, wait a second, going away from oil, that's a bad idea. Trying to go to net zero emissions, carbon emissions by 2035 or 2050, depending on when Biden is talking about it, frankly. He keeps changing when this is going to be. But he used to say he was going to cut carbon emissions in half. Now he's saying we're getting to net zero on energy production by 2035. And I think that that is a huge step for the American people and for the U.S. economy. And I don't think that the U.S. economy is built right now to deal with the transition that he is talking about. And so let's take a look at his statements, though, because I think that this is very important to do with whether he's going to win in states like Texas, North Dakota, New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Colorado. Those are the top 5 oil-producing states in the country. 41% of oil comes from Texas, 11% from North Dakota, 7.4% from New Mexico, 4.7% from Oklahoma, and 4.2% from Colorado. And of those, you could say that New Mexico and Colorado, those are states that Democrats carried in 2016. So could Joe Biden be putting those states in jeopardy right now? You might say that, President Trump, he's going to do pretty well in Texas and North Dakota, although Democrats had Texas pegged as a potential swing state in 2020. Maybe they just kissed that goodbye by Biden saying he's going to transition away from the oil industry. But let's take a listen to his actual words in the final presidential debate.
Close down the oil industry? Would you close down the oil industry?
By the way, I would transition from the oil industry, yes.
Oh,
I would
that's
transition.
a big statement.
It is a big statement.
That's a
because
big statement.
I would stop.
Why would you do that?
Because the oil industry pollutes significantly.
I see.
Here's the deal. But
That's
you
a
can't
big
do
statement.
that. Well, if you let me finish the statement, because it has to be replaced by renewable energy over time. Over time. And I'd stop giving to the oil industry, I'd stop giving them federal subsidies. He won't give federal subsidies to the gas, to solar and wind.
Yeah.
Why are we giving it to oil industry?
We actually do
All
give
right.
it to solar and wind.
We
And
have
that's
one
maybe the
final
biggest
question.
statement in terms of business. That's the biggest statement.
Okay.
Because
We have
basically
one
what he's
final
saying
question,
is he is
Mr.
going to
President.
destroy the oil industry. Will you remember that, Texas? Will you
Okay.
remember that, Pennsylvania, Oklahoma?
Vice President Biden, let me give you 10 seconds to respond, and then
Ohio.
I have to get to the final question. Vice President Biden.
He takes everything out of context. But the point is, look, we have to move toward a net zero emissions. The first place to do that by the year 2035 is in energy production, by 2050 totally.
So there you go. He's going to do net zero on carbon by 2035. He's going to transition away from the oil industry. And again, I think that's going to be devastating for these oil producing states, certainly. And again, I think that's going to cost him a lot of votes. And as for carbon emissions, the U.S. emits about 5.1 billion metric tons of carbon dioxide every year as of 2017. Last year it was 5.1 billion in 2019. And I believe that, this is pretty much where we're seeing a lot of our emissions come from. And of that, 45% is from petroleum, 29% from natural gas, and 26% from coal. And then of the portion devoted to natural gas, 1.5 billion metric tons, 506 million from electricity generation, and the rest is from heating homes. And then there's the composition of the U.S. electricity grid. 63% of the electricity grid, 38% from natural gas, and 24% from coal would therefore need to be replaced by 2035, according to Joe Biden. And he says he's going to do that by replacing everything with solar and wind, which currently comprises only 9% of the grid, stating it has to be replaced with renewable energy over time. And so I say that puts several more states in the crosshairs, and that includes your top natural gas producing economies. That's Texas at 24%, Pennsylvania at 20%, Louisiana at 9.3%, Oklahoma at 8.5%, and Ohio at 7.7%. And this is according to the U.S. Energy Information Agency. These states are going to be hurting big time as a result of Joe Biden's basically careless and I think reckless policies to do away with electricity generation that's going to be coming from fossil fuels. He keeps saying over and over again he wants to get rid of fossil fuels, but the fact that we're energy independent on natural gas and oil right now, that's all because of hydraulic fracturing. Now, to placate these states, including Pennsylvania, Biden is now trying to undo his past statements about eliminating fracking altogether. And now he's claiming that we're going to capture carbon emissions. This was another section of the debate. Take a listen to this.
What I will do with fracking over time is make sure that we can capture the emissions from the fracking, capture the emissions from gas. We can do that, and we can do that by investing money in doing it. But it's a transition to that.
And so there he is. He's going to try to do this so-called carbon sequestration. And again, that's to placate voters in Pennsylvania, particularly those that are concerned about ending fracking and therefore upsetting the U.S. natural gas industry. But I think he must have read a poll or something, because when Biden has talked about this, he's been saying nothing but he's going to get rid of fracking. Here's one claim where he so-called never told far-left activists he was getting rid of fracking, but that's a lie. Let's roll the tape according to Trump War Room.
There are critics that suggest you're trying to have it both ways. That is, you want to tell the environmentalist wing of your party that you want to ban fracking, but you're telling workers here in Pennsylvania nothing to fear.
I never told the environmentalists that I'm going to ban fracking, period.
What about, say, stopping fracking and stopping new pipeline infrastructure?
You got to transition away from it. Look, you're going to ban fracking all across America right now, right?
I would love to.
Yeah, I'd love to, too. I'd love to make sure we can't use any oil or gas, period. So look at my eyes. I guarantee you, we're going to end fossil fuels.
We're not going to get rid of fossil fuels.
So there you go. He is going to get rid of fossil fuels, and he says he guarantees it, and he says he'd love to get rid of fracking. I think that these are all big, lies that he's telling. Either he's lying to the environmentalists or he's lying to the people who support fracking. And I don't think he can have it both ways, but that's clearly what he's trying to do, depending on which audience he's talking to. Finally, in the first debate, Biden claimed he didn't support the Green New Deal. And yet, if you look at the Biden website, it clearly shows that Joe Biden is very much in favor of the Green New Deal. It says, Joe Biden believes the Green New Deal is a crucial framework for meeting the climate challenges we face. It powerfully captures two basic truths. The United States needs to embrace greater ambition on an epic scale to meet the scope of this climate change challenge, and our environment and our economy are completely and totally connected. So there you go. Joe Biden believes the Green New Deal is a crucial framework, and he says he doesn't support it. I think that's a lie too. Now, and I'll leave you with the close here. Now, Biden says he wants to keep fracking, but just for natural gas. But really, it depends on which audience he's talking to. The radical environmentalists who will run Congress if he wins, or the oil and gas producers. He's lying to one of them. And next week, we'll find out whether voters in Pennsylvania and elsewhere are willing to bet it wasn't them he was lying to. That's the commentary. This is Robert Romano, Vice President of Public Policy with Americans for Limited Government, dailytorch.com. Hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications, and have a good day.